Welcome back to another episode of That's Business. Today's guest, Dustin Walker, has over 20 years of professional experience in several fields, including education, industrial production, hospitality, and now residential finance. Dustin has fine-tuned his love of numbers and analytics and his knack for building relationships while advising clients through empowerment. He's currently the branch manager for the Woodward Corridor office of Ross Mortgage Corporation, a family-owned independent mortgage bank that has served Metro Detroit for over 75 years. His family has lived in Royal Oak for over 100 years and is passionate about seeing the region advance and evolve into the post-industrial age we've been moving towards over the past few decades. Dustin, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast.
Hey, what's up?
We're going to have fun today.
Yeah, we always do. We always do. It's been too long since we've had a really good conversation.
Dustin and I met through Royal Oak Chamber networking event, which was great.
Speed dating. It was like professional speed dating. It was really fun. Yeah.
Did I make fun of you for being in mortgages? I did, but...
Yeah, people usually do.
But did you grow up saying, I want to be in the mortgage industry? Or what did you want to be when you grew up?
Absolutely not. So I think the first thing that I said that I wanted to do was in fourth grade. I wanted to be one of those Disney Imagineers, like the audio animatronics. However, I have no engineering. I never followed through with any engineering stuff. And I'm not a really good artist, but just the idea, I think, of just like entertaining people or making people like in awe. I think that was like something that was like I wanted to do. Now, if you think about a mortgage professional, you do not think of like wonder and awe and like majesty. It's like, I think that's why there's so many people in maybe real estate or mortgages that like are super flashy, because at the end of the day, it's not a very sexy business.
Right.
On the inside, but on the outside, the veneer, the service, you know, there's a lot of flash. But I really enjoy the way that my life, professional life, has kind of just evolved into this. So, but I think if we were to go back, like when you're figuring out what you want to do, you know, at the end of high school, I decided I wanted to be a teacher, right? So I was really into history. I wanted to help people be able to problem solve, and let's solve all of the global crises, you know, and this is fresh after 9/11, right? So this is like beginning of the aughts where a lot of our classmates were going off to war. You know, the world was kind of like in this new information age. The internet was now becoming popular, and cell phones, people are starting to get their first cell phones. And so like there's a lot of optimism, but also we were kind of in this like scary mode. And so I was like, let me do something safe. Let me be a teacher, you know? And so I have the utmost respect for teachers. It's a hard job. I did it for a little bit. I went to Western, graduated in 4 years, did a half a year doing my internship at Clarkson High School. Went great. But you know what happened the fall of me graduating?
Ooh, what?
The economic collapse of 2008. So all of this... So all
Great timing.
Yeah. So all the teachers that, you know, we were hoping, you know, there'd be some openings, their 401ks went to complete shit, right? So like nobody, or 203Bs, whatever teachers have. And so nobody was retiring because, you know, everything got cut in half. So I decided, okay, I'm going to still work in restaurants because that's what I did to get to college. And I'll apply a bunch of places and we'll see what happens. Well, I ended up working on the east side of Detroit in a charter school. And what was really cool about my second interview there was the day that Obama was inaugurated was my second interview day. And I had to teach a history lesson in front of 7th and 8th grade kids. The school was actually 100% African-American. Take that, there's maybe a couple kids that were not, but it was predominantly African-American. First Black president we've ever had on inauguration day. What a cool experience. So that's just a little side note digression. But I quickly found that I became very disenchanted with the education system. It's like, and my friends that are still teachers now and are teachers, it's only gotten worse for them. So if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're a teacher, God bless you. Because it is just insane what you have to deal with between the bureaucracy, all of the different standards that you have to meet, and et cetera. So I just knew that I wasn't going to be happy long-term in life doing that. So I did what any normal 22-year-old would do, and that just go out and party and try to figure it out that way.
Yes.
So just picked up things wherever I could. I was a DJ. I sold insurance for a little bit. I worked for my friend's uncle's industrial chemical company and ended up, doing inside sales. We made ink that, if you ever see a tire and you see a spray dot on a tire, we made that.
Oh.
Like somebody makes that, right? So we
Yeah.
made that. So I did that for a long time, really kind of like found that I was always wanting to teach people things. I was always wanting to get deep into analytics with stuff. Ended up doing really well in hospitality management for 15 years. And COVID hit, right? So it's always these like monumental things. So
Honestly, God.
got a lot of trauma in like my birth year, I suppose. Anyone who was born in the mid 80s, we've had a lot of trauma points at key points in our life. But COVID hit and I was running this pretty nice restaurant and it was rough because we had to navigate everything, figure out like what's dining going to look like. How are we going to make sure that our employees were able to live, because unemployment was just not cutting it for people. The theme of today is like, look at problems and don't see them as problems, but just looking at them as, this is so cliche, but just like look at them as like different opportunities to like do something that you've always wanted to try or do. Because when there's crisis, people that have the ability to say yes or no or approve things or like sure, Dustin, go ahead and try this or do it. It's like, there's so much more willing to just like allow you to go ahead and try things because it can only get better. That goes, I think, in life. But I've always kind of just snuck in there when like things were kind of like awry and like, all right, well, I have this positive demeanor about things. I'm going to try this and just jump in and we'll see what happens. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But this one was really cool. So the restaurant I was working at, we were working with our produce providers and they had warehouses full of this produce that they weren't going to be able to sell because a lot of grocery stores, they already had their supply chains and they had to like fulfill those orders and everything. And some of them got rerouted there because obviously more people were going to grocery stores than going to restaurants at the time. This is like, I'm talking like late spring, summer of 2020. So like right in the beginning of everything.
Right in it. Yep.
Right in it. And so we had this idea, owner operator of my restaurant group and myself, let's partner with a couple of our providers and let's make these produce boxes that we'll just pass the money through. Whatever we buy them for, we're going to pass it along to our neighbors and restaurant clients, guests, whatever. So it got so popular that all these other restaurants started doing it. It's really fun. And we had a line up Woodward. It was like a mile long. We got in trouble with the police. It was crazy. We had a news article. I had a news interview. It was fun. But like we were able to provide a service to people and solve a couple problems. We had our provider, we want to keep them in business and not have to waste all of this food, which is already a problem in restaurants. We were able to just sell it all off to people, driving. It was basically a drive-through. You drove through, you handed us $10 cash and load you up with a whole crate of produce. And so people didn't have to go to the grocery store, when people didn't know. I mean, everybody was like Cloroxing their apples, like thinking that we were going to get COVID from touching the cereal box that was touched by somebody else. Hindsight's 2020, I guess. So where am I going with this? I'm going into, if I'm presented a problem, I'm going to figure out some weird way to just solve it. And restaurants, like education, I started to see the industry changing. Education has been a long time coming, but you're a 22-year-old kid, you're thrown into it for the first time, you think you could change it, and it's like, boom, you hit a wall. And you do the best you can with what you have. You try to impact as many kids as you can. Same thing with restaurants. We're seeing a sea change now of just like mom and pop places. Even like regionally pretty big restaurants are having a really hard time. The margins are just too thin. So I saw the writing on the wall after COVID with that. And I was like, everyone relies on me for all these analytics and, diving into costs, diving into just returns on investment, all of this stuff. And I love teaching people things. I love relationships. I love working with different types of people. What can I do with that? I had no idea what the fuck to do with that. I don't know. What would you like? If you had my mind like that, what would you do? Who would be the first thing that you would?
Man, I mean, well, it's interesting.
Because this is what my wife asked me, right? Like, I was so like you're like, I don't know, like so.
Well, and it's interesting changing careers so young too, because a lot of people don't, or they're like, oh, education, I have to stay in education. Or because I always recommend, I tell anyone that has the energy, like go work in a restaurant now post COVID, go work in a restaurant and go make that money, go nanny, go do something. But it's interesting that you are one of a kind, or one of very few, that you have that analytical mind, and you are very down the middle of, you have that relationship, the creativity, how to build rapport, network, all that. But you also have the, I'm analytical, I like numbers, and I can figure out a solution. Like, give me a shit show and I'll make it make sense. So it's interesting too. But I'm curious because I don't even know the story of how you landed on mortgages. But as a career coach in me, I don't think that would have been one I would have recommend. But that's where I feel like
And I wouldn't
you're
recommend it to someone either.
well, not even not recommend, but that
No,
wouldn't be
so-
like,
no,
like the top
it's-
three to say
Yeah.
like, you should do this. But
So
there's so much.
I gotta give a lot of credit to my wife, or credit's due. She's someone who's had the same career for, almost 20 years now. She went to art school, decided school was not for her, went to cosmetology. She's a hairstylist, and a really freaking good one. She's had the same clients for almost 20 years.
Wow.
She does it. Yeah, she just does it part-time now. She's just really good at honing in on something that she's great at and just developing that. And she's always trying to get better at what she does, but she's very content in her role and what she wants to do in life. And I respect that. She would always see the discontent in me, and what I just didn't want to necessarily, I was reaching my cap of what I could do, both financially and just position wise, and what I wanted to take on from a personal stress level, in hospitality. I'd reached kind of where you could go in Metro Detroit. With her being in, hairstyle and having a wide array of clients, she would always pick their brains. So I got to give credit where credit's due. Like I said, she was always just kind of opening up these conversations with people. And a couple of them that had really long-term careers in credit unions and being financial planners, things like that. Like, well, has he looked into not working for like Rocket or those big places, but has he looked into maybe working for a bank or, becoming a financial planner? Because obviously he loves, people, and, he's got regulars that he's built in restaurants, and it's not that far off from, when you have clients in financial world. And she's like, yeah, that's a really good idea. And they're like, well, let's just put it plainly. Like, what kind of margin do you make on like a steak or a burger? What kind of margin do you make on like house mortgage or like all this? So like, at the end of the day, you're selling somebody something that somebody needs, right? You're selling food, you're selling the house, mortgage, you're selling a car, whatever it is. It's just on different scales and
Different end products.
Different end products,
Mm-hmm.
but at the end of the day, a lot of the same skill sets of these salespeople can be transferable. And so I was like, all right, let me look into this. So I just started doing some Googling and figuring out, had an idea of kind of like what I wanted to like make a year. There's like this range. I'm like, you know a scam when you see one like online, like make $5,000 a month from home. All this, it's like, so I'm like, it's like, I gotta filter past that stuff. Found a couple things that seemed legitimate on Indeed and just started applying. Had a few great interviews. Ended up working for a company that is local and regional, does a lot of the same stuff that maybe like the big box places do with mortgages. And I also interviewed pretty heavily with, becoming a personal financial planner, working with municipal employees or like teachers and things like that, and working on their retirement accounts. I thought that would be maybe fun too. But at the end of the day, what out in my head was going into mortgages. So I independently did like the 20-hour course, studied for the tests, all of that, took the course, got hired by this company as kind of like an assistant, like a customer service. So I cut my salary in half. Didn't have kids yet, but I took a leap. This is the biggest leap I've ever taken. I'm not a huge risk taker in life, and I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But this one was a pretty significant risk. When you're interviewing with somebody and they're selling you the world and like what you could make and what you do, it's like you have to filter through a lot of that. But in this particular case, I just happened to find the right person that saw something in me. They wanted to develop me, and they saw like kind of my background and my skill set. They're like, okay, this is not a 22-year-old kid that we're going to like morph. This is somebody that has over 15 years of professional experience, just like running teams of 50, 75 people. He's obviously taking a risk. He's cutting his salary in half to like learn. And I said, okay, well, I have a 90-day goal because 90 days is pretty much all I can really do at this salary. So I'm going to work in good faith for that amount of time. And I did. I think day 88 or something like that is when I finally passed my, like the certification and licensing, got promoted from like the client service front to being a loan officer and selling loans. So I did that, like 88 days, which was cool.
Right on.
So I told him 90 days and I was like, I probably could be like 150 or so. But so I did it. This was during the refi boom. I had no idea. People that I talk to in the industry now, because I go to a lot of events and I talk to a lot of people that have been in this business for 25, 30, 40 years. They're like, oh, you got it at right time. I bet you thought it was always going to be that easy. I was like, I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that.
Right. You didn't know any different.
I didn't know any different. So, and I also didn't know that the model of the company I was working with before, it's a completely different model than most mortgage professionals are in. Like the one that I'm in, like the model of how I run my business is very self-generated. I don't buy leads, all relationship based. I have a lot of different referral sources that refer me because I do a good job. I'm not out there paying people or buying commercials and Super Bowl ads and all that. Like there are a lot of models out there that rely on advertisements, people calling in, having dozens of people, this cold calling, all of that. So that's kind of what I came from when I joined this industry. It took me about 2 years to figure out it was not the forever plan for me. 2 years later now, I'm the branch manager of the Woodward Corridor. So everywhere, Detroit all the way up to Bloomfield, Pontiac, and all the surrounding communities. That's where I focus on, but I do all of Michigan. I have some partners out on the west side of the state as well, in downriver. But I'm much more focused on helping families analyze their financial situation as it comes to what they're prepared to pay monthly, putting in an investment for their home, and just building that rapport with them. That's what I do now. And I honestly, I've never been happier. So I took that huge risk. I can't believe I did it, but I don't know. I have no choice. I had no choice.
How was that conversation? Because I feel a lot of people are afraid to even bring that to their partner, friend, family, brother, sister, whoever it is. I mean, half your salary, that's huge.
Well, my wife, Christina, I have an interesting relationship where she's much more realistic. I'm always the optimist. And I'm the one that always like works in good faith towards things and like, they'll make good on that promise. It'll work out. And she's like, that guy told you that, and that lady told you that, and that guy told you that, and what did it end up getting at? So like, not to say every person I've ever worked with, I've worked for some really great restaurant groups. I worked for some great people, but there's a common theme, I think, just in the dynamic between employee, employer. Like people will always try to get the most out of you and not necessarily exploit, but like when times are getting tougher, overall costs are getting higher, margins are getting thinner. Employers expect a lot out of people and can't always make do. Something's always happening, right? The industry's shifting or such and such got more expensive. So now we can't afford to venture out on that plan that we had. So kind of digressing into that. But my wife was always kind of concerned that I was going to continue to just like work in good faith for these people and work my butt off and then not have anything to show for it. I'm finally working at a company now. I think the average tenure of the loan officers in Michigan for our company is like 12 years.
Those are crazy numbers. Those are not normal. Wow.
No. And there's some that are like, they've been with the company since it became Ross Mortgage. So we're 75 years old, but it was rebranded as Ross Mortgage when the Ross family took it over a little over 40 years ago. We're just right over at Catalpa and Woodward. So Woodward Corridor is in our original DNA. Now we're at 11 branches across eastern part of the United States. And our headquarters is in Troy now in Big Beaver. But we're very much a Woodward Corridor-based company. If you talk to most realtors around here that have been around the block for at least 10 years. I bought my house 10 years ago, before I was even remotely considering this industry. Ross Mortgage is who did my first mortgage. So just kind of came around.
Oh, really? That's full circle.
Yeah, full circle. Cool. So yeah, my wife was concern, but we both knew that something had to shake up for us to be happy moving forward in life. And we're both really happy that we did. And even when I changed companies, that was a big jump because I was switching from having, base plus commission to 100% commission now. So that's another jump. And you have to have faith in yourself. So if there's a lesson to be learned, I think if you're ever going to advance, you have to really shut out those voices in your head that tell you that you're not as good as all these other people that you see that have been doing it for longer or have been doing it and they have more production than you do, or they have more relationship than you do. And then all of a sudden you get this imposter syndrome, right, that we talk about. You have to shut it out and you have to count your small wins because they add up and they change your mindset, when you start counting them. And then you really can start to appreciate that you bet on yourself and you succeeded. Maybe it took longer, maybe it's not as lucrative, or maybe it didn't turn out exactly how you envisioned it, but we're always moving forward one way or another, even if we're moving forward towards something that we don't want. Having faith in yourself is the key thing there. I'm going to be honest. This is raw right here. There's a lot of fucking idiots in my industry.
Oh my God. So many. Every industry.
But especially in sales, there are a lot of people that are like, I cannot believe you passed that test. So I don't want to sound like this know-it-all guy, but it blows my mind. Some of these guys are like, how do you tie your shoes every day? But with that level of self-assuredness, that confidence, that belief in themselves, even if other people don't necessarily believe in them right away, there's so many people in my industry that are super successful because they don't get in their own head, right? And that's, I think, one of my biggest downfalls is sometimes I'm over analytical. I'm over in my head. That person doesn't want to hear from me right now because they're really busy. It's no, they probably would love to hear from me because what I have to offer, they need. And I have nothing but great intentions in my heart for them. And I need to just shut myself up and make a phone call. And if they're not interested in working with me, that's fine. That's okay. I'm not for everyone. I'm not everyone's favorite flavor.
And I always I don't like everyone. I don't expect everyone to like me. And I think that's
there you go.
So important. And you always come at it. Even from first meeting you and us running in similar circles, you always come at things from an educational standpoint, period. So I'm not shocked at all that you were a teacher previously. I think I knew that, but I can't remember if I did. But you want help? Cool. I'm here if you need it. And I very much feel we're the same way when it comes to sales in that way. Is I'm not going to drive it in. And yes, I'm on some type of, loan list or something that I get. I'll probably have 3 in the almost half hour we've been recording when I take my phone off Do Not Disturb. And it's does the cold calling, do people really think this still works? We're in 2025 here. So I love that you take things very educational. I know you've provided people with different resources and just educating people, because I know I knew nothing. Thank God I had my mother and grandmother, but I knew nothing. I'm I don't know, 30-year, 15-year loan. I don't know. What does this mean? What is this acronym? I don't know. Lots of tears were shed, but
lots of acronyms in the mortgage world. Yeah. What I appreciate about this call today is I didn't want to be asked about acronyms and what this means and what. Dustin, should I get a 30-year mortgage or a 15? Tell the listeners at home what they should do. No, I'm not going to do that because everything is so personal.
Right. So many lingering variables.
Personal. There's so many variables, and every variable that you think that there is that makes your financial situation different, there's 50 more under the surface that you don't even know to ask about that we do. So I really do, whether people, reach out to me, if you're listening to the podcast and you're looking for a mortgage and you want to talk to me, cool. But if not, just heed this warning. And this is about my industry. Anyone that's so eager to get you closed so quickly that they don't take the time to answer all your questions or let you do your due diligence by maybe calling another company or asking for advice from things. There's a reason why they're trying to talk you through things super fast. Steer clear of that type of situation. You really want, whether it's me or somebody else, because there's a lot of other great loan officers. I don't want to talk complete shit about my industry. There's a lot of really great professionals that have been doing this for a very long time. That are incredibly intelligent, that have people's best interest at mind. But there are a lot of people out there that have figured out that if you just plow through a phone list with a certain amount of confidence, it's a numbers game, right? If you're like calling 300-400 people a day and you are really good at selling something sounds a little bit too good to be true, and it probably is a little bit too good to be true, you can make a lot of money in my industry doing that. I would not be able to sleep at night if I worked in that type of environment. That's just not me. I give a lot of credit to the people that have been in my industry that have been in it for 15, 20, 30 years and refuse to be one of those people. I have a lot of respect for them. And there are a lot of really great ones around here that I've learned a lot from. A lot of them are at my company. If you're listening, in summary out there, get a second opinion from somebody that is good at getting back with you, but isn't going to pressure you.
Right. Yes. My phone just lives on do not disturb now because of that. Because it's
I
just
wish I could. I have that problem. Oh man, we could do a whole episode about like addiction to notifications. Like I keep a zeroed out inbox on both my Gmail and my business.
Oh, I want to be you when I grow up.
No, please don't be, because it is so torturous. Like there's two types of people. There are people that like will plug their phone in whenever they're near a plug. And then there's other people that will just like let it run out and then ask somebody for a charger constantly. I'm that kind of person that I'm always like, my phone's always like at its maximum. Like I'm always like prepared for whatever. So like my inbox is always cleared out because a huge problem could fall on my lap. And then everything else that I thought maybe I'd have time for later now get pushed. So I'm like always answering constantly as it comes in. And that's a problem because if you're talking about work-life balance, I'm on it 7 days a week. Now I can go to the zoo with my kids on a Wednesday because nobody's telling me where I need to be with my business. But, I'm also answering an email on Saturday or running taxes for a house so I can tell a client what their monthly payment might be if they make an offer on a Saturday afternoon after an open house, because that's when people shop for houses, not during traditional hours. So there's a lot of pluses and a lot of negatives to trying to find work-life balance in 100% commission type sales job. It's not for everyone. You have to enjoy that tortured existence of never really being satisfied with what you have.
Oh, yeah. I look at my email every day. I log into LinkedIn every day. And even if it's like, yeah, we're on vacation, I'll still look at it in the morning or, because you have to maintain that because the partners get upset when you're on your phone all the time when you're on vacation. So yeah, I've definitely learned that. Or I'm like, okay, I know January, we're going to be at Q1. We're crazy. Manage it now, get stuff done by the holidays. And it's funny. And I'm the same way. It's like, you can't talk about your job when you're at your job or, take an hour out of your day to record a podcast. So like I do stuff after hours and you just kind of have to do that. So there's no perfect work-life balance, in my opinion, when you're in a commission-based job, have your own business, responsible for your own sales, stuff like that. So
yeah,
preaching to the choir, but I'm proud of myself for answering texts better. I don't have over 5 usually anymore. I used to have
That's
like
great.
30, 40. Mm-hmm. I was that person. So
I'm waiting for iPhone to change their settings to make it more like, because you can put it on like the drive mode where it like will send an automatic text.
Yeah.
But then you can't check your phone. I want to bring back AIM, AOL Instant Messenger. You put an away message up.
I loved it. Yes.
Our emails auto reply. Why can't our SMS? Like I think you should be able to put that on.
You heard it here, folks. Heard it here first.
Of all of the stupid features that I don't use on my iPhone, like all those different shortcuts and like you could like set it so that when you're like within 10 feet of your Wi-Fi receiver, your lights go on. You can do stupid crap like that all the time, but I can't set an away message so that my clients know that I am in a meeting and I'll get back with them in 3 hours, because that's my biggest annoyance with communication is not necessarily getting an answer to a problem right away, but just knowing that somebody received something. Like,
right.
I just want a timeline, right? Of when will I know? I think, an automatic response helps with that. So simple.
Right. It is so simple. They got to be able to do that somehow. Got to look into it. But Dustin, as we wrap this up, you've already given a lot of great advice. What's your final parting words of wisdom?
Shut the thing up in your head. Shut yourself up and just have faith that if you lead with your heart and you surround yourself with people that also have that same good intention, you will end up doing good things.
You're amazing. Dustin, this was so much fun. And
this was great. I mean, I feel like good luck with editing this, because this was just, I don't even think it was off the rails. I think this was like Jamaican bobsled, like down the chute, completely off the rails. So no, this was really fun. We should do this again.
We should. So if you're listening to this and you want to work with Dustin and talk the fun mortgage talk, head to the show notes to reach out to him, and tune in again next week for another episode of That's Business.
If you're looking for a career change and you're not sure where to start, the Resume Rescue can help. Sure, there's no such thing as the perfect fit for everyone, but here at the Resume Rescue, we're on a mission to find the perfect solution for you. Whether it's changing careers, updating a resume, learning LinkedIn, or practicing interviewing, we have you covered. Find us online at theresumerescue.com and find all of our contact info in our show notes.